I spent years running the family farm without pay after Mom died while my sibling lived comfortably in the city, but Dad still planned to leave everything to him just because he has kids, saying I'd be fine since I'm more capable. So I quit, got a new job and moved on, and only then did Dad realize he couldn't afford to replace me. I, a 34-year-old woman, returned to our small family farm 8 years ago after my mother passed away, aiming to help my father maintain it. My younger brother, 31, resides 2 states away with his wife and 3 children. His city job means he visits maybe twice a year, so he hasn't been involved with the farm at all. Over these past 8 years, I've essentially managed the farm's daily operations. It's a small venture that barely generates any profit. Most years we just about break even, enough to cover property taxes and keep the place running for my dad's sake. He still assists where he can. It gives him purpose after Mom's death, but the bulk of the physical labor and management falls on me. I oversee everything from animal care and crop cultivation to equipment upkeep, plus all the bookkeeping and paperwork. And I do all this while holding a part-time job in town to earn an actual income, as the farm itself doesn't really compensate me. Essentially, I've been working on the farm without pay, living here, and contributing because someone had to. Here's the issue. My father recently mentioned he's revising his will and intends to leave the farm to my brother. His reasoning is that my brother has a family to consider due to his children, and that I'm more capable of looking after myself. In other words, because I'm single with no children and my brother is married with kids, Dad believes my brother needs the inheritance more than I do. I didn't want to explode at my dad, but I did ask him if he was serious. I said something like, "What about all the effort I've put in here?" He just became a little defensive, saying it's not about keeping score and that in a family you help each other. He seemed to minimize my concerns, basically implying I shouldn't focus on who receives what, and that he trusts I'll be fine on my own because I'm capable. That truly stung. I've poured nearly a decade of my life into this farm. I put my personal life on hold and moved here to support Dad and keep our family's land going. My brother, meanwhile, has never even mowed a field or helped with harvest, not because he's a bad person, but because his life took him elsewhere. Yet now Dad is saying that the farm, which only still operates because I've been working it, will simply go to my brother, who had no part in it, just because my brother has children and I don't. Feels like a significant insult. I don't care about money in the sense that this isn't some highly lucrative property. It's more about the principle in the future. If my brother inherits the farm, I suspect he'll just sell it for cash since he has no interest or capacity to run it. That would mean everything I've worked for, keeping this farm alive, improving it, maintaining it, was all for nothing, and I'd also essentially lose my home and job simultaneously. While my brother reaps the benefits of a sale, I haven't had a proper sit-down discussion with Dad beyond that initial shocked conversation. He seemed to close off the topic by saying, "Family isn't about keeping score," making me feel selfish for even raising it. I do feel a sense of guilt because I don't want to appear greedy or ungrateful. I know I returned to help out of affection, and not with the guarantee of a reward. But at the same time, I feel incredibly unappreciated and taken for granted. It's as if he doesn't consider my contribution worthy of anything, simply because I'm the daughter and, in his view, daughters just assist. I'm truly conflicted and hurt. I don't know how to approach my dad without an argument. And I haven't informed my brother about any of this either. So, Reddit, am I in the wrong for being upset that my dad intends to leave the family farm to my brother even though I'm the one who has been working it for years? Am I just being entitled? Or does my frustration make sense? I could really use some perspective on this situation. Comment 1, you're absolutely not the issue. Your dad is completely exploiting you. He's basically treating you as free labor, and then compensating your brother who did nothing. That's entirely unfair. You have every right to be upset, and honestly, you should think about stopping work without pay. Your father is showing obvious favoritism or perhaps some outdated notion that the son should inherit the farm. You're in the right here. OP's response. It truly does feel like I'm being taken for granted. Comment 2. I'm so sorry you're facing this. Have you genuinely sat down and discussed with your dad how this affects you? Perhaps he doesn't grasp how much this is hurting you or how much work you've put in because you haven't fully presented your side. It might help to calmly explain to him what you shared with us here. Also, does your brother even desire the farm? Perhaps he might support you if he understood the situation. Either way, open communication is crucial here. OP's response, you're right. I haven't had a genuine heart-to-heart with him yet. I kind of froze when he mentioned the will change. I think I need to speak with him properly about it, as difficult as that might be. I'm not sure if my brother knows or what his thoughts would be. He's never shown interest in the farm. But yes, I'll try to bring it up calmly with Dad and see if that helps. Comment 3. You chose to move back and act as a farmer for 8 years. That doesn't mean you get to complain about not being given the land. It's your dad's property, not yours. He can leave it to whomever he wishes, and it makes sense he'd give it to the child with a family to support. You sound incredibly entitled, expecting a reward for what you were supposed to do. If you don't like it, you can leave. But stop trying to make your poor father feel bad just because you regret wasting your own time. OP's response. I'm not expecting a reward for helping my family. I did it because I cared, but it's hard not to feel hurt in this situation. I understand it's ultimately his decision, but I don't think it's wrong to feel unappreciated. I'm not trying to make him feel guilty. I just want him to understand my perspective, and leaving might honestly be what I have to do if nothing changes, as much as that stings. Update 1. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented on my initial post. It's been about 3 weeks, and I followed the advice to sit down with my dad and discuss things thoroughly. Unfortunately, that conversation didn't go as well as I'd hoped. I tried to explain to my dad how I felt, that I've committed years of my life to keeping the farm running, and that it hurt to hear he'd give it to my brother, who hasn't been involved at all. He seemed genuinely uncomfortable and defensive. He basically stated I shouldn't view family inheritance like payment for work and that I was wrong to make it about keeping score. His words were something along the lines of, "This isn't about tallying up who did more. In a family, you do things for each other out of care, not for some reward." He repeated that my brother has a family to support and that I'm more independent. So, in his mind, this is about providing for the family members who need the most assistance. I brought up that it felt unjust and he responded, "Life isn't always fair and inheritance isn't a paycheck." That pretty much concluded the discussion because I didn't know how to reply without it escalating into an argument. I also asked if my brother even knew about any of this yet. Dad told me he hadn't mentioned the will change to my brother at all. He acted as if it wasn't a big deal, saying it's just estate planning and I shouldn't worry so much about it. That was somewhat surprising to me because it feels like a very significant matter. The entire conversation left me feeling quite disheartened. It's clear that my dad basically sees all the work I do on the farm as simply something someone naturally does for her family. He doesn't perceive it as labor that grants me any ownership or stake. It's just expected of me. Realizing that was quite painful. So at this point, nothing has really changed. Dad is adhering to his plan, and I'm still here performing the daily farming tasks, but I'm growing resentful. I haven't confronted my brother about it, yet since he's still unaware and lives far away. I'm honestly unsure where to proceed from here. This situation just feels really terrible and unfair, but talking to Dad made no difference. I suppose I'll have to figure out a next step, perhaps involving my brother, but right now I'm at a loss. Comment 1. This is simply so wrong. Honestly, it sounds like your dad holds some old-fashioned or prejudiced views. Like the daughter is supposed to toil away out of obligation, and the son who did nothing gets the reward because he's the male with a family. You are in no way the problem here. You have every right to feel hurt. OP's response. It does feel that way. Unfortunately, I'm starting to suspect it's largely that outdated mindset. It's painful to think that's how he views it, but I appreciate you affirming that it's not acceptable. Comment 2. If your dad refuses to be reasonable, you might need to start prioritizing yourself. It's unfair for you to continue working tirelessly for free if he's just going to hand everything to your brother. Maybe begin by reducing your farm responsibilities or seeking a paid job elsewhere, something that will secure your future. It's difficult, but your dad is taking you for granted, and you deserve better. OP's response. I've been considering the same thing, to be honest. I love the farm, but I can't pour my entire life into something that won't even be mine in the end. The thought of leaving makes me feel guilty, but you're right that I have to consider my own future if you won't. Comment 3. You should definitely include your brother in this discussion. There's a chance he doesn't even want the farm. If he's a reasonable person, he might agree with you or at least be frank with your dad that he has no interest in it. At the very least, speaking with him could clarify whether he intends to keep it or sell it if it goes to him. Knowing that might give you more leverage or insight when you speak to your dad next. OP's response. That's a valid point. I haven't spoken to my brother yet, mostly because it's awkward, and I wasn't sure how to bring it up, but I do want to know what he thinks and what he'd do if Dad actually proceeds. I'll try to have that conversation with him soon, especially if I can't reach Dad any other way. Update 2. Many commenters encouraged me to speak with my brother, so I did. My brother and his family came to visit Dad and me briefly, a short weekend trip about 2 months after my original post. I took the opportunity to pull him aside and discuss what's been happening. I basically told him directly that Dad was planning to leave the farm to him in the will. He looked surprised. It seemed like this was the first he'd heard of it. I asked him hypothetically what he would even do if he inherited the farm. Would he want to keep it or manage it somehow? He was quite honest. He said something like, I mean, I can't exactly move out here and start farming. My life is in the city. The kids have school and I have my job. Essentially, he admitted he wouldn't be able to personally utilize the farm. Then he kind of shrugged and said he'd probably just sell it if it came to him. I won't lie, hearing him say that out loud irritated me, even though I anticipated it. I told him that I've put almost a decade of work into the farm, and I truly don't want to see it sold off to some developer or stranger. I was hoping perhaps he'd never considered it from my perspective and might rethink it. He became a bit awkward and said something like, yeah, I get that. I don't know. It's complicated. I'd have to think about it. That was pretty much the extent of our conversation. He didn't outright offer to decline the inheritance or suggest giving me any share or anything. He mostly just seemed uncomfortable. I suspect he doesn't want to be the bad guy. But he also clearly sees the farm more as a burden or an asset to cash out rather than something to keep in the family. After that conversation, I felt quite low. It confirmed my worst fear. If Dad proceeds with this, the farm will basically be sold the moment it passes to my brother. I'm trying not to resent my brother. It's not his fault Dad set this up, and he's just being practical about his own situation. But it still felt like a blow because it means all my work here truly would end up being futile in the long run. So that's where things stand. Dad still hasn't explicitly told my brother, hey, I'm leaving you the farm. So my brother is kind of waiting for that news from Dad. I guess I haven't told Dad about the specifics of my talk with my brother yet either. We just had the visit. They left and now I'm processing it all. I'm not sure how or when to bring this up with Dad, like, by the way, I spoke to brother, and he said he'd sell the farm. I expect the conversation to be difficult, but at least now I have a clearer understanding. If nothing changes, the farm's future is basically non-existent. It's a really discouraging realization, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with that information. Comment 1. Now you have solid evidence that your brother would sell the farm. I believe you need to inform your dad of this immediately. If your dad's entire rationale was about family and preserving things, he needs to comprehend that his plan means the farm won't remain in the family at all. If he still insists on leaving it to your brother after knowing it'll be sold, then he's being unbelievably stubborn and short-sighted. Explain it clearly to him. Giving the farm to your brother means the farm is gone. Maybe that will make him see things differently. OP's response. I agree that he needs to hear this and soon. I'm gathering the courage to have that conversation. It's not going to be easy telling him that his grand plan would actually completely backfire. But you're right, he has to face that reality. I really hope that information will make him reconsider because it's basically exactly what I was afraid of. Comment 2. I must say I'm a bit disappointed in your brother's reaction too. I understand his life is elsewhere, but he didn't even entertain the notion of trying to keep the farm or acknowledge your years of effort. He basically said, yeah, I'll sell it without missing a beat. A decent person might have told your dad, give it to sis. She's the one who earned it. At the very least, he could have suggested some kind of division or plan that includes you. It comes across as quite selfish that he would just take the money. I know your dad is the primary issue here, but I'd be feeling hurt by my brother as well. OP's response. I was a little disappointed too. I don't think he intends to hurt me. In his mind, he's just being practical about what he'd do. But yes, a small part of me hoped he would say something like, you've been doing all the work. Maybe it should go to you. Or that he'd at least reassure me he wouldn't mistreat me. He truly didn't. I'm not trying to demonize him, but it did sting that he didn't seem to appreciate what I've done either. Update 3. 4 months later. It's been a few more months, and I've started quietly preparing for the possibility that I might have to establish a life away from the farm. After considering the advice here and observing how things were unfolding, I updated my resume and began searching for other job opportunities in the agricultural sector. I haven't left yet or anything, but I've definitely been less involved in long-term planning for this farm. I think my dad has noticed. The other day, my dad actually confronted me. He asked why I seemed distracted and not as engaged with the upcoming season's plans. I decided to be direct. I told him that I was exploring my options outside the farm, since it's become clear to me that I don't really have a future here in the long run. I tried to say it as gently as possible, but I didn't hide the truth. I can't keep investing all my time and labor into a farm that I'm not going to inherit or have any ownership in. Well, that escalated quickly. My dad became truly upset and emotional. He basically accused me of abandoning him. He said, so you're just going to leave me here all alone in my old age? After everything, you're walking away. He continued on about how he thought I cared about our family and the land, and how my mom would be so let down if she knew I was willing to just pack up and leave. He framed it as if I was betraying the family. I did my best to remain composed. I reminded him that I have been here for 8 years out of love for the family, but that I also have to consider my own life. I told him plainly that it's difficult to justify staying when I know I'll end up with nothing, and when I know that if my brother gets the farm, he'll likely sell it anyway. I did mention that last part, that my brother had told me quite clearly he'd sell. Dad just shook his head and said something like, "You don't know that for sure. He might realize its value to the family when the time comes." It felt like he was in denial or simply didn't want to hear it. The conversation was dreadful. We were both angry and hurt by the end of it. My dad basically thinks I'm being selfish and disloyal. From my perspective, he's the one who placed me in an impossible situation. I told him, "I'm not trying to hurt you, Dad, but I have to have a life that's mine. I can't work myself into the ground here and then have it all taken away." He just said, "I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You chose to come back. If you want to go, then go." But he said it in a very bitter tone. So yes, now we're kind of at a standstill. He knows I'm serious about potentially leaving, and he's upset. I feel guilty and upset too. I hate that it's come to this point. I wish he could see my side without feeling attacked or betrayed. It's like there's no good outcome here. If I stay, I'm essentially harming my own future. If I leave, he feels like I'm harming his. It's a terrible situation. At the moment, we're not really speaking much beyond basic necessities to run the farm each day. I'm still doing my chores and he's doing his, but there's a lot of tension. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I have a couple of job applications submitted now, so I guess we'll see if anything materializes. I haven't officially resigned, but he knows I'm nearing that point, and it's heartbreaking for both of us in different ways. Comment. This truly sounds like a no-win scenario. I empathize with your dad to some extent. He's older, likely afraid of being alone and seeing the farm disappear, but he brought this upon himself by not treating you fairly. You've been incredibly patient and generous. Choosing to pursue your own life isn't selfish. It's necessary. You gave him numerous opportunities to do the right thing. If you get a good job opportunity, you should accept it without any regrets. Hopefully, your dad will eventually understand that his actions had consequences. In the meantime, you need to prioritize yourself. OP's response. I appreciate that. It is a heartbreaking situation all around. I do feel bad for my dad, and I know he's afraid of the farm failing or being alone, but you're right. I gave him every chance to make this right and he refused. I have to look out for myself now. If an outside job comes through, I will likely take it, as hard as it will be to leave. I also hope he'll understand someday, but I can't depend on that. Update 4. 8 months later. A lot has transpired in the past few months. The major news is I secured a new job. About a month ago, I was offered a position managing operations for another farm about 3 hours away. It's a larger commercial farm, and they were impressed by the experience I've gained running my family farm. The pay and benefits are actually substantial, something I'm honestly unaccustomed to. After working essentially for free for so long, I decided to accept the job. I gave my dad a full 2 months notice that I would be moving on. I wanted to give him as much time as possible to prepare since my departure is obviously a significant change. When I told him I was definitely leaving, he kind of panicked. This was a different reaction than the earlier anger. This time he was in a state of distress. He begged me to stay, said we could find a solution. He even finally offered to revise his will again. This time he said he'd split the farm between my brother and me 50-50 if that would persuade me not to go. I did not agree to that for several reasons. I calmly explained to him that splitting the farm ownership isn't a true resolution. If I owned half and my brother owned half, my brother could still force a sale of the entire property or sell his share to someone else, like a developer, which would effectively ruin the farm anyway. I asked my dad to consider how that scenario would unfold, and I think that truly made him pause. For the first time, I saw it dawn on him that his compromise idea wouldn't actually safeguard the farm. I think that's when it truly clicked for him that I'd been correct about the risk all along. He became quiet and then said he needed to speak with my brother. From what I gathered and from what he later told me, that phone call with my brother was a real revelation for my dad. He directly asked my brother what his intentions would be if he inherited even part of the farm. Apparently, my brother basically told him, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to sell it." I assumed he knew that. My brother wasn't cruel or anything, but he was frank that he has neither the time nor desire to maintain a farm, and that the money from selling it would be more beneficial to his family. I'm not sure if my dad fully grasped that until he heard it directly from my brother just then. Their conversation became quite heated, at least from my dad's side. I wasn't on the call, but afterward my dad was visibly upset. I heard him complaining a bit, saying things like he couldn't believe we just give up our family's land for cash. I think he was directing that frustration at the situation and perhaps at himself, because what did he expect? He's now realizing that his plan would have led exactly to the outcome he didn't desire. At this point my dad is scrambling. He knows I'm leaving in a few weeks. The clock is ticking on my notice period. He started trying to hire help to replace all the work I do. And unsurprisingly, it's not simple. For one, skilled farm labor or a manager costs money, far more money than he ever had to pay me since I was working for free except for room and board. He actually said to me the other day in a defeated way, "I had no idea it would be this expensive to find someone to do what you do." Yes, no kidding. I feel for him. I truly do. He's an older man facing the possibility of losing both his child, me moving out, and the farm's viability at the same time. My contributions weren't just what family does. They possessed real economic value. And now he perceives that clearly because he has to pay someone else. The farm's finances are already stretched thin. And hiring workers or a farm manager is going to consume whatever slim margins we have. I don't know how long he'll be able to keep things going without me. As of now, I'm packing my belongings and getting ready to move out in a few weeks to start my new job. My dad and I are on slightly better terms than after that big blow-up in Update 3. I think he's too exhausted and worried to continue arguing with me, and he's somewhat resigned to the fact that I'm leaving. He hasn't explicitly stated it, but I think deep down he understands why this is happening and that he's largely responsible for it. There's a somber understanding between us now. To answer the question everyone's been asking from the start. No, at this point I don't think I'm in the wrong in this situation. And I don't think my dad or brother set out to hurt me either. But their actions did hurt me. And now we're all dealing with the consequences. It's a difficult, complex situation with no real winners. I'll be moving forward and doing what's right for me. My dad will have to figure out how to manage or possibly consider selling the farm in the future if it becomes too much. That part is up to him now. I'm sad that this is how things concluded. Thank you to everyone who followed along and offered advice. This was a challenging journey, but I'm hopeful that better things are ahead, at least for me.